Hey y'all, it's Monique Leslie, Misfit Crafter here from Misfit Crafter Studio, Misfit Crafter Menagerie Shop, and Misfit Crafter Blog. Today I was just going to bring you a really fast, simple folio. It's a little autumn folio that I created for our Art and Junk Journal challenge for our autumn season for 2024. So I'm just going to give you a quick example on how to make a really quick, really cute folio and just the idea behind a folio. So let's take a look at the folio itself, and then we'll go over supplies, and then I'll show you how to make it. It's really fast, it's really easy. Most folios usually are, but this one's really fun because it has a few little flip out sections. I just wrote autumn notes on there, added a little bit of, dried flowers and stuff right here, and then I just decorated out with some paper. But for this, you only need 2 sheets of cardstock, a few sheets of paper, decorative, just to cover it with whatever you want, and then a few sheets of like scratch paper, notebook paper, something like that, and I'll show you why. Explain that in a second. But it opens pretty simply. It has a little flap right here that you could either add a magnet to if you want it to hold it, or just tie it with some string or ribbon or whatever. Um, However you decide to do the closure, it's really simple. But basically it opens kind of like this, and you could flip it around and things like that. But it opens nice and wide. You have basically it is 5 panels on one side and 5 panels on the other side. So you have 5 here, and if you flip it completely around, you end up with another 5 back here. Now the fun thing about it is that, of course, when you open it and close it, you can do it all kinds of different ways. So you can, flip it out like this, and then just keep flipping. You can flip it back the other way, all kinds of different ways. That's the fun thing about a folio, is that it's basically just a string of the same or similar types of or cut pieces of cardstock. Usually it's a cardstock base. You want to have a pretty good sturdy base, anywhere from like a 80 pound or higher. You can get away with 65 pound. Then you might want to add a few more layers. Also, on the other end, if you do have something like a thicker 110 pound, which is what this one's made out of, you're going to want thinner paper to go on top of it to decorate it rather than thick cardstock. So this is actually paper decorating it, not cardstock. That's where the printed part comes from. This one also happens to have a little sort of tuck area at the very end for a little notepad, and I'll show you how I did this really cute, just fun little notepad that I made with some scratch. It's actually not totally scratch paper, but it was like some scheduling paper that I have just like a ton of it. So I was like, well, let me just make a quick little notebook out of that. And I'll show you how I did that. And that just tucks in here, and it's really good for like field notes, quick notes you want to take. This is my autumn kind of note, my autumn notes, little journeys. If I'm out somewhere, I just want to jot something down, keep this in my purse, and it's really quick and easy. The main thing about a folio is it's usually thin. It can be all kinds of different heights and widths, but it's usually fairly thin. This one is only 1/4 inch actually on this guy. Yeah, this is a 1/4 inch thick only. So they're usually pretty, really thin, no more than about 1/2 inch thick. Otherwise, it turns into a book. But a 1/4 inch is usually good. There's no hard, fast rule about it, but that's usually what a folio is. It's usually a thin, quick fold little thing, and they can fold all kinds of different directions. It can fold out like this. It can fold out up, sideways, add pockets, things like that. But they're usually pretty thin, and they're meant to keep just a few little things in. What's really nice about this on any junk journal, you can tuck this into a junk journal and then just tie it up, or this can be by itself. It's also good for little art sketching in it, just a quick little pad to take with you instead of taking a full junk journal with you. Um, you could use it for mementos, or just like a photo, like a mini little photo keepsake album, and just attach photos to everything. Um, it can be used so many different ways, which is really, really fun about it. But the best part about them is that they're usually pretty quick to assemble, quick to decorate, and they're just fun and easy. Um, this particular one, I used my mushroom paper that I have in my shop. So if you are looking for that, I'll show you the supplies right now, and you can see which paper that is. But again, this is pretty easy. So I'm going to show you how I did this. And oh, and then just as a bonus, the leftover piece was perfect size my one little scrap really that was left on it, because we really end up with no scraps from the cardstock, was perfect for a bookmark as well. All right, so what you're going to need is just 2 pieces of cardstock. The listing, if you are coming from the challenge itself, you do have the list of supplies in the challenge. And there's a link below if you want to join the challenge. It's the autumn version of the Art and Junk Journal challenge. It's a 20-day prompt challenge, and you can join anytime. It doesn't have to be only for autumn. This one just happens to be really autumn theme, but you could apply it to anything. And there's another version of the 20 prompt challenge with almost completely different prompts, mostly different prompts. I want to say like 80% different prompts. So there's different challenges that you can join for the Art and Junk Journal challenge, but you can join it at any time. The live version ends on November 1st, but you can do it anytime you want, and you can go back and reference it as many times as you want. You never lose access to it as long as it can be maintained the server. We guarantee at least a year. It's only $25. Um, and it gives you basically 20 lessons, 20 prompts with different um, it's like it'll say a prompt. For instance, this one's an easy one. This one's actually one of the simpler prompts, but uh, it's, this one's like folio magic, and it gives you an idea of what a folio is, a video, uh, measurements. Sometimes there's templates. Yesterday or today's, technically today's prompt earlier, or yesterday's prompt was all about watercolor magic stuff, and um, how to do watercolor resist, and we ended up with a full on lesson video from Therese, that was a guest on the challenge, and she did a full video, and then did a Q&A live that was recorded and added to there, and then she ended up giving us also some download templates and some references and all kinds of other stuff. So depending on the prompt, there's more or less on each prompt. So if you want to check it out, again, the link's below. So let's go back to this, sorry. All right, so back to supplies. All you need is 2 pieces of cardstock. The supplies on the challenge do say 3, but that was just so you have an extra. It does say that in the notes in case you mess up on the measurements or something like that, or accidentally cut something wrong. You have an extra one, but you really only need 2. You need some sort of decorative paper. I am doing the Mushroom Nature Junk Journal set. I'm actually using an oopsie print where it didn't quite print correctly. That's why you can barely see everything. And everything looks a little weird and negative-y or glowy funny. So I am using an oopsie print for this one, which is great. But there's even more details in the one that you actually get. It comes with a ton of pages, and you also get, I believe this one is a 23-page set. And then it comes with a bunch of extra ephemera and stuff like that, and embellishment stuff that you can make and assemble and put in your folio if you want to. And then again, like I said, you just need some sort of scratch paper or notebook paper or something like that to make your little notepad. All right, so let's get to cutting. Oh, and of course you need a bone folder. You need either some scissors or paper cutter, some glue. A scoreboard is helpful. If you don't have a scoreboard, then you're going to want a ruler to know where you're going to put your creases and things in. So let's get started with the cutting, which is the simple part. We're basically going to cut all these in half so that we get 4 equal sizes, and then we'll cut them down just a little bit more after that. So we'll grab the paper cutter. And basically you're just going to cut these in half to 5.5 inches. So in half, widthwise here, 5.5. So you're going to cut both sheets 5.5. So that will get your first one. So you should have 4 sheets that come out 5.5 by 8.5. Nice and easy right there. Okay. And then we're going to take one of those sheets, and we are going to cut this one down again to 2.5 by 5.5. So we already have it 5.5, so we're just gonna go 2.5. And then 3 7/8. So it's just before the 4. So 3 7/8 of an inch by 5.5. And then there's our little scrapbook mark. Okay. And then, like I said, you end up with like a little scrapbook mark. I think I cut mine down one more time. That's what I did. Yeah. So 2.5 by 5.5, 3 7/8 by 5.5, and then you're gonna end up with a piece of scrap like that. And then we're gonna go ahead and put those aside. And then after this, all you're gonna want to do is cut down some notebook paper or some plain paper, whatever you happen to have, so that you can make your little notepad. And so for this though, I can't say exactly how many you're gonna need. It's gonna depend on the paper that you're using. So this was like a scrap, but I'm gonna cut it down the size that you need. It's gonna be 3 7/8 by 5.5. 3 7/8 by 5.5. If you're not sure exactly how many you're going to need, cut maybe 10 sheets for now, and then you can add or take away as many as you need. But I would say about 10 sheets or so. It just depends on how thick, or if you want a mix of different papers, different scrap papers. Like I can put this in here. This was like a leftover piece. If I want, cut this down and add this to be part of my notebook. Whatever you have, I would say about 10 sheets should do it though. I think that's what I'm going to do because I wanted to use this in my book and I didn't. All right. So cut those, and then we're going to switch over to the scoreboard. So if you want to pause right here while you finish cutting out your notebook sheets, pause now and then come back and then be ready to score. All right, so if you finish cutting out your scrap sheets, you can put those aside for right now. We're going to do some scoring. So each one of our pieces, we'll go ahead and mark them A, B, C, and A, B, C, D, and E. If you want to like write it in pencil or just keep them in order, then you should be fine. So we're going to take 2 of the sheets that we had in half, and we're going to score them exactly the same. We're going to score them at 1/2 inch, and then 4.5 inches. So 1/2 inch and 4.5 inches. So do 2 sheets, that'll be A and B. So 1/2 inch by 4.5. This will be A and B. And I'll usually just write on them in the middle since it's going to get covered in paper anyway. And since I'm doing it in black, it comes up very, very lightly. But there's A and B. Like I said, though, if you keep them in order, you're fine. So 1/2 inch and 4.5 inches. And then we're going to take another one, the last sheet that's still full half, and we are going to score landscape or lengthwise, whichever you want to call it, at 3 3/4, 4 inches, 8 inches, and 8 1/4. So again, we're going to do 3 3/4, 4 inches, 8 inches, and 8 1/4. And this is going to be sheet C. Like I said, if you keep them in order, you're fine. So we got A, B, and C. All right, sheet D is going to be our little 2.5 incher. And we're going to keep it up this direction on portrait. and we are going to score at a 1/4 inch and at 1/2 inch. So 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch. This is going to be our little flap. So it's up to you if you also want to make the flap have that little point in it. It's up to you. All you would need to do is get an idea of where your 1/2 inch mark, and since it's 5.5 inches, it's going to be 2 3/4 is where you're going to want to do that little mark. You can put a little mark on there at 2 3/4 if you want to do that now. And then all you're going to do is cut it from that mark to that corner. So you can see that. So that's the 2 3/4. You're going to cut it from there to there. You can do it like on your paper cutter and just cut at an angle. If not, for this one, what I wanted to do for this particular one instead is I'm going to corner around the edges on this one. So it's up to you on what you want to do, but or you can just leave it squared off, but I'm just going to corner around my edges. And this is going to be my little flap. So I wanted to do one slightly different for this one. So those are your two options. So you can either cut it at a little pointy angle from edge to edge. So like I said, from that end to, so from that middle mark to that point right there. So all on the same area. From that point to that point, you just cut along your paper cutter there and then do the same thing here, and that'll give you your little point right here. Or you can do what I did and just corner around the edges instead, or just leave it squared off, however you want to do it. Okay, and this is D. Okay. And then E is going to be this last one, and you're going to turn it lengthwise this way, or landscape, and you're going to score it at a 1/4 and 3/8. So 1, 2, and 3. So you're going to score it at a 1/4 and 3/8, which is basically just the next notch right after your 1/4 inch mark. It's just going to give you a little tiny little thing there. Okay, and that is E, and your last piece. So D and E, and those are your pieces. And this one again is just for a bookmark, so you just hold this for whatever else you want it for, and then you have your notebooks. Okay, so we'll put that aside, and now we'll start folding everything. So for A, the very first one, you're going to score all your lines the same direction. So you're going to fold down and down, and then just burnish everything really good. So this is A. We're just scoring it down and down, just like that. This is actually going to tuck into here and make us our little pocket to hold our little notepad. Now, if you don't want to do the notepad, you can if you want to glue this bottom as well, or put tape over it, or just use it for another flip out instead of gluing like it completely shut. But in this one, if we're going to make the exact same one, we're just going to glue it shut. So for this one, go ahead and glue this part shut. And just burnish that down real good. I always try to like push outward so I don't end up with glue on the inside of the pocket. So I'm like pushing outward as much as possible. Oh, and I got a little glue on it, but that's okay. But just in case, open this up and just make sure that on the inside you don't see any glue that maybe seeped out. And if you did, kind of get in there and clean it off just a little. I think you did good though. So you can see the seam is actually on the inside right there, if you can catch the light a little. Right in here. So yeah, you're going to glue it on the inside so you don't really see the seam. It really doesn't matter. It's just easier. You can put it on the outside, but then you got to move the score line just a little bit. But this way, it's really simple. and everything fits nicely. We're not going to seal the bottom unless you want to make it a pocket instead, but we're going to leave it like that. Okay. All right. So the next one, we're going to score in two different directions on this one. So this is B. We're going to score one down, or fold one down and then fold one up. So one down and one up. So it's going to look kind of like that. Okay. We're just going to burnish that down really nicely. And burnishing just means that you're pressing it down to give it a nice crisp edge. So like I said, it's that way. And then this one, particularly if you're using a thicker cardstock, you're going to burnish it down really well. But it's going to look something like that. So I'm going to go two different directions instead of the way that one did the same. And then on the rest of these, we're actually going to fold them all down the same direction. Now here's a little tip when you're scoring and when you're folding. You can see how the crease is pushing in. And if you go on this side, you get that little bump, right? You actually want to fold on that bump. It actually gives you a crisper line. And on this one, like I said, all the rest of these pieces, we're going to fold all of them the same direction. So we're going to do that one. Burnish it down. So all of our score lines we're going to fold in the same direction. When you get to these really, really thin ones, you want to push out from the center out. Makes it a little easier so you don't end up a little wavy. Sometimes when they're really, really thin strips, it might mess it up a little. Like I said, these should all be going in the same direction. Again, so that should give you a little thing like that. And then our last one, this one might be a little harder because this one's the really thin one, so I usually start with the one on the inside closest to the big piece, and then grab the thinner piece next, and from the inside push out to make sure it stays nice and straight. But if you score it really well, it makes it easy. All right. So now what we're going to do is take that last piece that we just did. This is going to be our little notebook piece, okay? So what you're going to do with your pages for your notebook, you're going to gather as many as it is that will fit in your particular notebook. And you're going to tap them to the top. So you're going to hold them upside down. You're going to make sure everything's all nicely tapped in place, right? And if you want, you can use like a paper clip or something like that just to make sure that they're all held in place and they don't move around on you. And what you're going to do on this, you're going to put glue only on this front little flap and in this seam right here. So you're just going to cover that all nicely with glue. If you have yourself a little brush or something, get it all evenly on that. And don't put any on this back piece, only on those seams right there. And then if you want, you can also just reinforce and make sure all your paper is tapped down and just put glue on the top of your papers right here. What I'll do is I'll just put it all on the top edges and then just kind of brush it quickly flat like that. What that'll do is it give it that little like tear effect. And I'm just going to push this just a little down. Make sure they're all tapped off good. And then put that right in there. And fold that over. And you want to, before you glue it, test to see if you need more or less paper. So you can make sure you can fill this guy up. So put it in there and make sure you're filling that all up with paper as much as you need. I didn't cut too many pages, but then you get back here and just burnish it all down so it holds it. And then you can hold it down right here, just like that. And that'll make sure that all your sheets end up in there nicely held in by the glue. And then what will happen is that once it's all dry, you want to let it dry. And that's why we do that one first, so it sets aside to dry. And they do stick out at the bottom. That's okay. You can make them shorter if you want to, but it's not really a big deal. Make sure my glue's out of the way. But what will happen is that when you have the little notebook now, your notebook's all stuck together. And, you know, I would say if you wanted to also put a decorative sheet right on the top like this, so it's kind of like the cover sheet to your notebook. And you don't use that first one. But then when you open it, you can actually, if you wanted to, just pull out a paper like that. You can just rip out your pages, just like you had on another, like a regular notebook. That's how you make your own little notebook. All right, so we have our little notebook put aside. We'll put it over there for now. All right, and then we're gonna start assembling all the rest of our pieces. So what we're gonna do is we are actually gonna start kind of this way when we do this. So what we need is to flip this over is the easiest thing, or our stack. So this is our little pocket guy. And then one of our the little sheet that's going opposite directions. And we go, make sure I have this correctly. Yeah. So you are going to glue this to this. So it's going to look like this. It's going to have this little flap going down. This is laying here, and this is going to be glued on top like this. So we're going to go ahead and do that. What you can do is just bring this over here, fold that over, and just make sure you tap it down, make sure it's pushed in nicely before you like settle everything in. Push it as far as you can, and then just burnish that down to have it hold it in place. Perfect. So there we got that same little curve now right there, see? All right, so the next thing we want to do is grab this one and that, put it like that so you can kind of match it up. That part is going to go here. So that very, very last little flap right there, that one little edge flap is going to go right on the edge right here. So you have a little bit of a spine right here. So we're only going to put glue on the inside right here. So we're gluing only this last flap. What I'll do is I'll just fold it over like this and then just kind of pull onto it and make sure that it's pushed down on the bottom and all lined up on each edge nicely. You can also do it like this, where you put it down on this edge. Mine's a shiny paper, that's why it's not attaching right away. And then just smooth this out. I'm very messy with glue, just so you guys know. That's why I end up covering my stuff up. All right. Just burnish that down nicely. Make sure everything's all nice and lined up. I did this with the last one too. I just made a mess out of my glue. That's why it's good to have a glue eraser. Mine is missing. That's okay. Yeah, get all that glue, and then I have a bunch of glue on my fingers. But that's okay. All right, so you have the base right here. So this is your whole base already. You can see how that came along. We put that only on that last tab, and it's holding it in place. And then we have our little spine here and our little spine here. So when it closes all up, closes like that. So now what we need to do is go ahead and attach our little flap that holds everything closed. You can see everything is all nicely put together. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and attach our flap, which is our last little piece here. And it's super simple, because all you're going to do is right here, that one little piece that's here, this is going to fit right over it like that, right on top. So you can see that just kind of goes right on top of that, just like that. So all we need to do is put glue on the flap, and we are set with this guy. And we'll have assembled everything. You can see like right here, it's just hanging on the edge over here nicely. So let's go ahead and do that. So all we're going to do on this is put glue all right here on these last two little flaps. And then we're going to put it over the edge of this. And just attach it. Now it's going to be slightly smaller than that edge, so it's going to want to like kind of resist on this other edge. You can, if you want to, just cut that edge off too, which is what I ended up doing on the other one. And then just play with it to get that last piece in, that part in. You can open this up, and it's sitting right there. So you're just going to burnish that down real good. Make sure it's got everything nice and stuck. And that's it. That is your whole assembly. Try to clean this off so it doesn't have everything sticking to it. There you go. And that's it. So that is your whole book. Oops. And it's not quite glued together yet, right there. I'll do that one more time. Yeah, make sure it's nice and glued. Let it glue, but that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions or comments, and I would definitely love to see what you make, so be sure to tag me, or head over to my website and you can join the, if you're part of the Junk Journal Challenge, make sure that you post your finished product from the challenge, which is really fun. If you are not in the challenge but still want to share what yours looks like, you can go ahead and join our junk journal group or any of the just regular maker group if you decided to use this for something else other than junk journaling. There's a regular maker group on my website as well. You can check it out below. It's misfitcrafterstudio.com. Again, there's going to be a link to the challenge on there, which has all the written directions for this, as well as this video will be posted in there so you have quicker reference to it. So the only thing left to do with this is to decorate. So you can decorate it however you want. Two of the pages are slightly smaller, which is just this little flap here. The front and the back of this flap over here is the only one that's going to be smaller than the rest. All the rest of them are going to be 4" by 5.5" panels. So you're going to have 8 panels, 4" by 5.5 inches, and then this one comes out 3 7/8 by 5.5 inches. Yeah, 3 3¾ by 5.5 inches. And then the only other thing would be your little closure that you would just measure, I believe it comes out 2.5 inches. 2 inches. So 2 inches by 5.5 front and back if you want to decorate front and back. And then whatever, however you decided to cut the angle. But then the only other thing you have to do is you're going to put the notebook on the inside over here. So if you open it like this and you just pull all the pages over, that's where your little notebook goes, is on the inside there. And this will fit right in here. Just like that. And just push it in. And that's why we didn't glue it to the back end, so this flaps over just like that. And it just sits in your book as a little extra field notebook. See? There's your little notebook in there. And then when you want it, you just pull it out. And then if you want it to, you can use, there's these little paper clips that actually hold pins. Or you could wrap some twine around it, add your pin to it, clip it to it. Any little pin that has a clip will clip right onto here on the outside, something like that. So you have a little bit of a gap so that you can add pins and stuff. But that is it. So I hope you liked everything. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit that little bell so you get notifications of anything that's new. And all links are below. If you have any questions, let me know. Definitely share what you make. Thanks. Bye-bye.